So, in the very finale of the series, in Baldurs Gate 2, Chapter 10, Gorine's ward either destroys or absorbs what is left of Bhaal. And that's where we end the series. And we can even take his place as the new Lord of Murder. The entire story revolves around Bhaal's legacy in forms of his children, the Bhaalspawn, mostly notably Gorine's ward, and Savarok. Now this is interesting because the next game we have not seen or heard much about Bhaal or his influence in any way in the trailers or the footage that we have been shown. So I've tried to answer the question of at least what we know currently if Bhaal will be in the next game. So in an AMA on Reddit, Sven, the founder of Larian Studios, answered a Reddit question which was asked by Curvine. Will there be any connection between the story of Baldurs Gate 1, 2, and Throne and Bhaal and Baldurs Gate 3? That was the question. Now Sven answered, we really don't want to spoil anything, but we wouldn't call it Baldurs Gate 3 if there wouldn't be a link. Let me just say that we touch upon the story of Baldurs Gate 1 and 2 in meaningful ways. There are returning characters, and what happened in Baldurs Gate 1, 2, Throne of Bhaal leads to what happens in Baldurs Gate 3. You won't necessarily see that at the start of the adventure, but you will quickly understand once you get further into the game. That was his answer, which is quite interesting, since this confirms that there's a link between the games. So Bhaal features heavily in the games, so this opens up a possibility for him returning in some way, or the Bhaalspawn at least. And in an interview, Sven also told that it's a real possibility, saying this. If you look at what the 5th edition has done, characters like Boo and Minsk are still alive. Bhaal and maybe a couple of other guys are still around. What's going to happen with that? You are going to discover when you play Baldur's Gate 3. So this also points more towards that we will see Bhaal reappear, since his answer quite blatantly mentions Bhaal and a couple of other guys. So he mentioned Bhaal specifically, and that we are going to discover that once we play Baldur's Gate 3. And also, this quote could also be for other characters like Minsk and stuff like that. And in 5e, if we look at it from a tabletop perspective, priests, clerics, and paladins of Bhaal do get spells. So the god himself still has influence, even though he's either absorbed or not. Since he's listed in the player's handbook, and you would get spells if you level up or praying to the deity, essentially. And Mike Merles said this also, that there are gods who have faded who are making a comeback, which is also interesting. So we might be seeing this comeback in Baldur's Gate 3. And from an adventure perspective, notably Descent into Avernus, there's more that links Descent into Avernus to Baldur's Gate 3 than in my previous video I've uncovered. So the Dead Three, which are cult to the god Bhaal, Bane, and Merkel, who you also see or hear about in a book that you get from Firebead in the Baldur's Gate games. And since the time that Bhaalspawn Savarok plotted to start a war between Baldur's Gate and On, there are more of an awareness towards the Bhaalspawn, the Lord of Murder's sons and daughters, essentially. And it's even gone to the point that some figures, like political figures, either paint other people as Bhaalspawn to kind of sow some dirt on them, or they paint themselves up as Bhaalspawn to appear more powerful. Now, in a beginning dungeon in Descent into Avernus, we go into the dwellings of the Cult of the Dead 3. And in there, we can see different cultist ranks as we fight them along the way. There are a low-ranking cultist of Bhaal that are called Nightblades, and they are blessed with dark vision and superior stealth. And then we have the Reapers. They gain the ability to turn invisible, and they can use Bhaal's magic to evade suspicion. The highest rank are the Death Heads, who have sort of a skull-faced guise to their deity, terrifying their prey essentially in combat. And they also shrug off the deadliest attacks with ease mostly. So Bhaal still have powerful cultists worshipping him, and they have a presence in Baldurs Gate, which is very important since Descent has a whole Baldurs Gate gazetteer that talks about Baldurs Gate and describes it in the sort of 5e way, what it's become and what it is now currently. So these cultists are still roaming, so we might even fight these in the game, the Nightblades, the Reapers, and the Death Heads. And despite that the worship of Bhaal is very decentralized, the gazetteer mentions that some believe that Bhaal still has an influence over Baldur's Gate, and that it's unclear whether the rise of Bhaal's fate in Baldur's Gate stems from how many murders there are in the city, since it's kind of a grimdark, very deadly city, or if the murders are coming from Bhaal's influence himself. So it could either be one way or the other, essentially. The Flaming Fist in the adventure suspect a group of Bhaal worshippers that are behind the recent events of murders. And they have left the victims stabbed to death and their own blood dribbled like a crown around their heads. So to sort of show respect to their deity Bhaal. Descent into Avernus also presents a third possibility of the evil influence in Baldur's Gate and why the city is so evil. There is a shield, a magical one, that has a trapped pit fiend underneath Baldur's Gate in a vault under a vampire villa. And this shield, called Shield of the Hidden Lord, now spreads its sort of negative energy throughout the city. But this is just a suggestion from the adventure itself. However, I also wanted to look on to another possibility or another deity that might make its presence more known in the new game, since it might be sort of a redirection from the city or the past games. So we have the Mind Flayers, who's making more of a prominent role, at least in the trailers and possibly in the games as well. Sven told PC Gamer that the Mind Flayers have rediscovered the secrets of Nautiloids, which are these flying ships we can see in the trailer. So they are not just confined to the Underdark anymore. They can fly around and infect cities and stuff like that. And we also see the fight brewing and starting with the Githyanki, which are the essentially Mind Flayer hunters from the other astral planes. And a god that the Mind Flayer has is called Illicene, which is the Tentacle Lord, or the Great Brain, according to Forgotten Realms Wiki. And he was the patron deity of Illithids, or Mind Flayers, and some believe that he was also their creator, in a sense. Now, Illicene is described as possessing infinite tentacles of infinite length that stretch to all planes, and he usually manifested itself, or it manifests itself like a glowing, disembodied, emerald-colored brain that has sort of massive tentacles stretching into the dark. Anyone who seek to dominate or enslave the minds of others can also pray to this deity, or have a feeling that they are drawn to it, the deity. It offers powers and control to those who are faithful, with access to sort of mind magic of a divine nature. And the clerics were known as slave masters, essentially, using both magic and psionics to control living and undead slaves alike. Now, why I'm mentioning this is because in Larian's past game, Divinity 2, you had the normal classes, sort of, that you can pick, or the trees, essentially. But you also, everyone had the godlike powers, the divine powers, the source energy. And I think that perhaps the psionic will be something available to all the classes in this game. So perhaps Elysian will offer this psionic power from the mind tadpole that's already inserted into the player character, and possibly also the other characters. And this will be something that we can choose to tap in and perhaps turn a little bit evil, or stay out of to avoid getting corrupted. But in summary, I think definitely that Bhaal and other characters from the Baldurs Gate series will make an appearance in this game. And I think Bhaal and the Dead 3 are going to feature prominently, but also perhaps Elysian, or at least psionic powers.